Good morning, Carmine. It's RJ back with another video. Let's get to it. Today's random Mike Schmidt item of the day. I have here a card. It actually says it on the back. It is from 2011, Topps Baseball Series 2. It was their manufactured patch insert that year. It's a kind of lame. I mean, all the manufactured patch cards are pretty much just lame. They just don't make any sense. But if you're a Phillies fan or a player collector, you got to have them. So take a look at if you can see inside there, it's like pasted over top of the card. You know, it's this thick thing, and this is just a paper cardboard background. The piece stitching is stitched. You know, this is yarn or thread of some sort. This thing is just kind of glued over top of the thicker cardstock here. You can see layers of cardstock. I'm not sure how they make these things, but they're always just cheap and useless and worthless. Except if you're a player or collector like me. They call it a commemorative patch. It's not even a patch, it's like a piece stitched. It's crazy. Anyway, I love it because I'm a Schmidt collector. What can I say? What can I say? Today's random baseball item of the day. Another silly little thing for you. This is my ice cream dish. If you go to some of the stadiums, you'll get these plastic helmets that are ice cream dishes. This one is of the old style, throwback style Phillies cap. I actually have a complete set of baseball hats from around 1993. I have every team in the league at the time. This one, I can't remember where I got this one. It might have been at a yard sale or something like that. It is a proud part of my Mike Schmidt collection because it is Phillies cap logo in the style he wore. So I keep that on my Mike Schmidt shelf. Today's trivia question. Today is the May the 19th, sticking with this day in baseball history. On this day in baseball history, May the 19th, 1981. Interesting little question for you here. On this day in baseball history, May 19th, 1981, this pitcher started a game and he threw and it gave up a hit to the leadoff batter. Then he proceeded to retire the next 27 men in order. So he threw a one-hitter and only the first player got to base. Name that pitcher. So the prize for that, pretty cool card, I think, here. Really nice looking. I mean, it's sharp corners, a little off center. But a 1983 Fleer Jim Palmer card for you. All right. So name that pitcher. Email me the answer. Who was the pitcher who gave up one leadoff single and then retired the next 27 men in order back in 1981? Email me the correct answer. I will include my email in the description below, along with a repeat of the question. You'll have today and tomorrow to answer, and we will pick a winner on Sunday. So good luck to everybody there. So today what I want to show off is the final cool thing I got back in the mail from the Bay purchases recently. I haven't even opened this yet. I'm going to open it with you. It's not that big, not that impressive, but 1994 card set, a little box set from a company called the American Archives Publishing Company. They're what they call the Origins of Baseball from 1744, believe it or not, 1744 through 1899. So we're going to open this up. I tend not to keep things sealed because I want to touch my cards. I want to look at my cards, so sealed box sets do not impress me. I am not one to leave them sealed, unless I got like multiple copies, then maybe. Just accidentally slammed into the stand when I was ripping that open. So here it is. The cellophane is off, and we're gonna open it up real quick. Come on, get there. There's no tape or nothing. Come on. I need some expert to tell me how to open these dang things. It's moving. There we go. All right, so here it is. I may have showed off a couple of these cards in the past because I have some of these cards in my, what do I want to say? Some of these cards can be found in my Hall of Fame collection because they just don't have cards of some of the old-time players, really old. Ooh, these are a little bricked up. Wasn't expecting that. Hopefully not damaged at all. So the first card, I think these are numbered on the back. Nope, they're not even numbered on the back, believe it or not. So they got here Abner Doubleday, as if he was an origin of baseball. If you know the story, which is untrue, he created baseball on his own in Doubleday Field up in Cooperstown, New York. No, not true. This is why 1744 is part of the origins of baseball. It has here a depiction from a publication in 1744 in the colonies talking about boys playing a game of ball. So I'll let you read that card if you want. That's why 1744 is listed as the origin of baseball. Now, here's some interesting things, some, Native American statues of individuals playing bat and ball games. Interesting stuff. Some of the early teams prior to the formation of the official leagues, the Brooklyn Eckfords. Here's something called, just as social clubs. Baseball started as a social club thing, not as a professional thing. Baseball in the 1850s. Alexander Cartwright, who was the man who actually, quote unquote, invented baseball. He didn't invent baseball. He took the various bat and ball game rules and crafted the sport of baseball we know. This was his team, the Knickerbockers. Here is what is known as the Massachusetts game. The other way they played baseball sometimes was with a square layout rather than the diamond layout we know today. I'm not sure how it worked, but that was actually a way to play baseball back in the 1800s. Henry Chadwick was the original, he was the biggest promoter of the game. He was a newspaper man. He wrote a lot of columns for various news articles, and he loved the sport of baseball. He put it in all the newspapers. Plus, he actually invented the shorthand notations we use as box scores today. Another early baseball team. Here's Abraham Lincoln. I think they put him in here because if you read the back, it talks about him playing bat and ball games when he was a youth. Andrew Johnson, who was the president after Lincoln, same thing. First enclosed ballpark. Another early Brooklyn team, Jim Crichton, early player, baseball in the 1860s. The 1869 Red Stockings, the first openly professional team. Even though most baseball clubs were social clubs and supposed to be that way, they started paying people in order to win. Harry Wright, one of the early pioneers of the game, certainly a legendary manager. He was on the manage of the Phillies for a while in their early years. Their Boston club, the professional Boston club. Harry Wright is there in the background. His brother George, who was one of the best players in the game, is up front. Arthur Cummings, Candy Cummings, is credited as being the first curveball player, first person to ever learn and throw a curved ball. William Holbert was the first president of the National League in 1876. George Wright, I told you before, that was Harry's brother. Great player he was. Al Spalding, the inventor of the Spalding Sporting Goods Company, and a great pioneer and player himself. Albert Bushong. Don't know Mr. Bushong? You can read about him there if you want to pause it. Jim O'Rourke, early legendary player. Bid McPhee, member of the Hall of Fame. Pud Galvin. They're kind of stuck together here. Pud Galvin, first 300-game winner. Ed Blige. Don't know Ed Blige. If you want to learn about him, there you go. William Blondie Purcell. Remember the Phillies' early teams. Not a Hall of Famer, but a good player for many years. Roger Connor, he had the home run record of career home runs until Babe Ruth passed him. I think he only had like 170 or something like that. 131 home runs. He finished with 131 home runs, and that was the record until Babe Ruth came along, believe it or not. An 1882 Cincinnati club. There's a lot of these great cards of old-time players that we've forgotten about who were stars in their days, like Pete Browning. He is not in the Hall of Fame. William Gleason. This is Kid Gleason. He was a manager. This is back in his playing days, but he was a manager of the White Sox in 1919 when they threw the World Series. Paul Hines, legendary, but star in the early days, I suppose. Baseball in the 1880s. Robert Carruthers, don't know him, but again, these are all stars back in the 1800s. The New York Mets, the Metropolitans, believe it or not. Some of the early New York teams were called the Mets. St. George's Field, all kinds of different stadiums they had back in the day. Charles Radburn, he is a Hall of Famer. This is a great picture right here. Baseball in Egypt. They went on a world tour back in 1889, showing off the game of baseball, trying to get everybody else enthused. Here are some of the American baseball players standing on the Sphinx, something I doubt you would be permitted to do today if you went to visit Cairo. I don't know. I haven't been there. George Andrews, I do not know. William Dummy Hoy, he was mute. He couldn't speak. That's why they called him Dummy. Chicago of 1869. Cap Anson, legendary Hall of Famer, one of the promoters of the the color line. Cap Anson. John Clarkson, Hall of Famer. King Kelly, one of the first superstars of baseball. Some of these are really sticking together. I'm getting a little paper loss on the corners. That makes me sad. Our Buffalo Bisons had a team in 1887. Moses Fleetwood Walker. This was actually the first major league black player before Jackie Robinson. He was in the American Association in 1884, which was a major league at the time. Played about 70 or 80 games. Detroit, 1887, and they still had Little League Baseball for kids back in the 1800s as well. All right, what do we got left? Louisville, John Farrell, old-time ball player. Walter Latham, don't know Walter. You can see a lot of these are great forgotten players of the 1800s. Fred Dunlap. Tim Keefe's a Hall of Famer, though. Here's Cincinnati back in 1888. Dan Bruthers is a Hall of Famer. John Montgomery Ward, very smart guy, great pitcher, but he also he helped pioneer the first union. And when they didn't get their way, they created the Players Association to go against the major leagues back in the day. Al Spalding is a later in his mogul days. And he was the one who created a lot of uniforms. He had the exclusive rights. That's why he was so smart. Because he was a baseball insider, he got all baseball teams to be forced to use Spalding products. And he came up with all kinds of wild ideas to increase his profits. Tom Easterbrook, 1800s player that we don't know about anymore. A lot of these are great cards for that reason. Like Mark Baldwin. I have no idea who Mark Baldwin is, but he had an impact on the game. Tony Mullane was a great pitcher from the 1800s. If you look his career up, you'll see he was well respected for many years. Tony Mullane. What do we got here? So John Glasscock, don't know much about him. Amos Russi's a Hall of Famer. Jake Beckley is a Hall of Famer. Jimmy Collins, a Hall of Famer for the early years of the Red Sox organization. Charlie Comiskey as a player. He was the White Sox owner in the Black Sox scandal. Tommy Conley, an early umpire. Mickey Welch, Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame pitcher. A lot of these people you probably don't even know. Ed Delahanty, a Phillies great. Hugh Duffy played for a number of teams, including the Phillies at one time. He managed the Phillies. He's in the Hall of Fame. Buck Ewing, Hall of Fame catcher. Clark Griffith, Hall of Fame owner, manager, but he was a player back in the day. He was actually Griffith Stadium in Washington was his. Kid Nichols is a Hall of Famer. Billy Hamilton with the Phillies, Hall of Famer. Ban Johnson, founder of the American League. Willie Keeler, Hall of Fame member. You get a lot of these early Hall of Famers here. Bobby Wallace, Hall of Fame. Napoleon Lajoie, Hall of Fame. Connie Mack, look, this is Connie Mack in his playing days, looking very young. Hall of Fame manager. Fred Clark, Hall of Fame manager of the Pirates back in the early years. Tommy McCarthy, Hall of Famer. John McGraw as a player rather than a manager. Amos Roos, or Jesse Burkett, Hall of Famer. Going to get a lot of these Hall of Fame cards now. Frank Chance, Hall of Famer. I love this card of Mordecai Brown because it shows a close-up of his hand. You always wonder, what does his hand look like? That is Mordecai Brown's three-fingered Brown. That is his hand. Take a look at the... Remember, his hand as a kid got mauled by a combine or something. That is his hand. Love that picture. New York Giants team right here, back in the day. Jack Chesbro, Hall of Famer. Sam Thompson for the Phillies, a Hall of Famer. Boston versus New York in 1891. Rube Waddell, Hall of Famer. Joe Kelly, Hall of Famer, also with the Orioles, just like Willie Keeler. Addie Joss, Hall of Famer, who died early in his life. Addie Joss. Boston Bean Eaters. Baltimore Baseball Club. And then the game in 1899, just before the turn of the century. And again, this card set really features players who had an impact on the game prior to 1900. That's what the whole point of this set is. So if you like that set, it is The Origins of Baseball from the American Archives publisher. I'm going to show off these cards. You can pause here and read about why they did this set. They got a little thing. I think these are the same cards. There's a lot more to it than that one there. So this was the Origins of Baseball set. All right, so I went a little long with that, but I wanted to show that off. I'm a big fan of these historical cards. Thank you for watching. Don't forget the trivia question there. Sorry, I'm going to take a sip of my soda here. My mouth is dry from talking so long. So please consider like, subscribing, commenting, and all that jazz. And come back again Sunday as we do the trivia recap, all right? Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Take care.